Hey all, how you doing today? We are down here in the back 40 of Thunder Ridge Ranch, lower portions of the property, and as you may or may not be able to figure out from background noise or seeing behind me, we are down here with the hogs, and we'll get back into them in just a little bit. But before we do that, we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of what we're going to talk about today. We want to bring to you our experience and our knowledge, some of the things that we have learned and experienced to help you if you come into a situation, anything similar to what we are battling the last 4 years or so. So if you're battling dense woods or just flat out poor soil quality, you're going to want at least one, if not two, of these livestock. And I'm going to get into the first livestock here, the second livestock here first, just because it might not pertain to every situation. But this is a livestock you'll put in after the first livestock goes over the ground, and that is goats. Goats will eat holly. They will eat your bramble, your blackberry, your wild rose, your honeysuckle vine, the invasive vines, any sort of bramble, anything like that. They'll even get the younger pine tree saplings. They'll eat that up, or at least the needles, and help clean that up some. So, and I would follow that first animal up with the goats, and we'll get into that here in just a second. So let's get into the first animal to see why would you want to put them first. So that brings us back to these hogs. Yep, that's right. Hogs is our main recommendation if you want to clean up and reclaim the woods for pasture land, or just simply repair poor soil quality. But hey, Thunder Ridge Ranch, you got sheep. Wouldn't you want to use sheep? Well, you can use sheep. And a shepherdess on YouTube basically described our garden, how we first walked into it, the soil quality. And according to her, it took 3 years of rotational grazing with her sheep to get good pasture. And I'll show you the garden. I mean, we did have the pigs in there for about a month. And some of that, yes, is undesirable plants, but the vast majority of that is grass. So that's about a month and a half maybe of having hogs in the garden. That was a Kuni pasture pig, the Kuni cross that we've had. We would rotate them about 2 weeks. There was one time where we did rotate them more at 3, but in general we rotated them at 2 weeks, which is the same thing we did with the sheep. And what you notice is, as you're rotating the sheep, and I'm going to move down here, for example, you would find that after 2 weeks, they might have eaten some of the low-lying leaves off of trees and any sort of green that might be lower to the ground, but they're not going to eat your, or at least ours didn't eat the beech trees. They didn't eat the holly, too prickly for them. And they wouldn't really clean up the floor, which in a sense, you really don't want, because that's where you start getting into parasite problems. But if you have the sheep, they weren't down in this area, but this is what you would see after 2 weeks of having sheep. Okay, well, what does 2 weeks look like after a hog? Granted, they've been in here for a lot longer than 2 weeks, but you'll be left behind with something like this. You'll notice the difference. There's no leaves on the ground. They'll consume the maple leaves, the oak leaves, anything that falls over the winter. They'll eat that up by spring. And if hogs have enough time rooting up the soil, basically tilling it for you, defecating on it, fertilizing it, stomping it in, you are going to end up with grass. Beautiful grass. And to give you some context on the ground here, we've moved in here about 4 years ago, and historically tobacco was raised down in this back 40. And if you know much about that, you know it'll absolutely zap the nutrients of the soil. So we had absolutely nothing to work with. And as much of a headache as it's been, time to time, we owe all these grassy patches, the garden right here in the pig area, to these little squealers. Without these pigs, we wouldn't have grass. The sheep haven't really done a whole lot for us as far as turning pasture or clearing land. So in summary, if you have dense woods you're trying to reclaim and turn to good pasture land, or maybe you just have really poor soil and you need to rebuild it and you're trying to get some good pasture land out of it, we highly recommend you push pigs. They will clear a lot of it. They'll uproot the smaller trees. They'll till that soil with their snouts. They'll defecate and fertilize it. And you saw the results. It doesn't take a whole lot of time for pigs to start turning up some grass. And I understand that's not a lot of grass. But when you compare it to what the sheep were doing in the same time, the only places where the sheep have been where there's any grass is where they wasted hay, and there's hayseed. And even then, it still doesn't compare to what the hogs have done. And to follow up with that, if you've got young pine tree saplings, or you got the brambles, you got blackberries, maybe wild rose, or young holly trees, or anything of the sort that you're looking to clear out as well, well, buddy, goats just might be your best friend. And we know exactly how you might feel about that. Or maybe excited about the goats. Some people really like goats. So whether you want to keep them long term, or they're just part of a way to help you save a little bit of time and labor and get your soil turning around and get viable pasture land that you can run whatever livestock you do want. Whether it's them, somebody else, we highly recommend you have them hogs and follow them up with them goats. And we all here think that you will be very happy with the result. If you stuck along this far, we want to thank you for tuning in and spending these eight or so minutes with us, and we hope that you get something back on that. We hope you all have a blessed and productive day. You all stay blessed now.